with us is our bails bondsman is with us. And this is Chickie Leventhal. Chickie, welcome to Ron's house.
Well, thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, when I read your background, and I'm going to share it with our audience here, you've had appearances on Fox News, you've been on Celebrity Justice, commenting on relevant cases, and you worked your way up as a secretary to an assistant vice president of a national insurance company, and now you have your own bail bond business. And if people want to find out more about that, you're based here in Southern California at www.chickies, CHICKIES, bailbonds.com. You're also a member of ExpertBail, which sets a pretty high standard for the bail industry nationwide, and you've had quite a reputation. You're one of the best, and I'm really excited to have you on as a guest. My hope is I never need your services, but at the same time, you never know when you're in a position where something happens where you could be in that. And I don't think people understand what bail bonds do exactly. We're limited in that knowledge. Tell us a little bit about what is the role of a bail bond.
Well, you know, in this country, we are so fortunate because an innocent person does not have to sit in custody waiting to go to court. And a person is innocent until they're judged guilty by the court. Now, a bail agent allows you to be free on bail, and make every court appearance until the case is over. And that's basically the function of the bail agent. We make a promise to the court. You'll be there each and every time. And that's what we do.
Well, it's a difficult challenge, isn't it? I mean, the newspaper loves to show examples where there is a problem, and that's what they seem to be focused on most of the time as well. Here's a situation where somebody maybe jumped bail or did something while on bail that might be a problem. How do you deal with that issue of handling the fact that you have to deal with some pretty tough customers sometimes, and obviously some people who are indeed innocent of what they do and some are not, but you still have to provide this choice?
Well, this is true. I believe that everyone is entitled to bail. However, we do have rather a strict rule of conduct. For instance, in most cases, we never get to see the defendant. It's this nice family that comes in to see us. This nice family that is devastated because a member of their family has been arrested. They don't know what to do, and it's our job to guide them through this process and also to protect ourselves, because although we charge a premium up front, which is recognized by the Department of Insurance as being the correct thing to do, we are paid for our services, but that's only a very small portion of what we would actually suffer in loss if this person would flee. So we take premium, and we also take collateral. Now, by collateral, I mean we will now have a lien on your mother's house, your grandmother's house, whatever, which is a tremendous incentive for this person to make all their court appearances and to behave themselves while they're out on bail. This is the way that we protect ourselves.
Well, in a way, it's also protecting us. You're saying that their motivation is higher to go through the justice system because people they care about would suffer a consequence if they did not return.
That is exactly correct.
Now you hear of judges who, I mean, essentially the judge has to make the decision as to how high the bond will be, if they do get bail, if there are any conditions that relate to that. How is that determined?
The judge can make a determination when he sees the defendant's record. If this is a first arrest and if the bail schedule says X number of dollars, fine, he will allow the defendant out on whatever that minimal bail is. If he sees that this is a repeat offender, if he has any concern that either he is a danger to society by being released on bond, or if he's an extreme flight risk, the judge has the option to raise the bail as high as he chooses to do so, in some cases really beyond what the person can pay, because he really feels that the person should stay in custody. He also has the option of ordering electronic monitoring. Now, this is basically house arrest. The defendant has to stay in his house with this electronic bracelet on his ankle unless he is allowed to go out to work, to see his lawyer or his doctor. Otherwise, his activities are completely restricted.
Well, so in a way, the person that you're representing, who you will be contacting, will have limitations if there is a serious danger to having them out, or they've had a sequence of a number of cases where things have occurred. It is actually part of that judge's responsibility to establish that criteria. I bet you at times, though, how do you deal with the fact you ever feel uncomfortable being in a situation where you are providing a bail for somebody, and you said you don't usually talk to the actual defendant, you end up talking to the family? That would certainly give you a different perspective. Have you ever felt uncomfortable with your role in this?
Well, interesting that you should say that. When I first got into this business, I said, well, I will bail everybody out, except I will not bail out child molesters. I mean, I have a thing about that. And someone looked at me and said, since when are you judge and jury? This person is innocent, just like any other person that is arrested. If you or I were taken into custody, we could be falsely accused. How do I know that this child molester is really a child molester? And what business is it of mine? Let the judge decide. He can stay out. I'll make sure that he goes to court. I'll make sure that justice is served. So I learned a valuable lesson there.
That is a very interesting insight, and one that's a difficult one, isn't it? Because we all have our judgment as to whether somebody is guilty, and it's only a function sometimes of what the media has said or what limited information we have. And thank goodness we are in a criminal justice system that has a tension that's built in. You're going to have somebody defend you, and you're going to have somebody who is going to try and prove you guilty. And you got a bail bond that's going to allow you to continue a little bit of your life without feeling like it's been totally changed. That's got to be a relief for some people to know that they can continue to work in some cases, because again, it's such an interruption in their life.
That's absolutely true. And in addition to that, a person who is incarcerated is in a terrible position to help his attorney establish his defense. Every criminal defense lawyer will say, please get him out of there. I need him. He has to sit down in that lawyer's office and go over tons and tons of evidence, all these little pieces of paper that when they put it all together, perhaps the puzzle will work in the defendant's favor, or at least it will show mitigating circumstances where he's not quite as guilty as the court would like you to believe.
So it allows you to really make a better defense, and that is an important function if we're going to have true justice. At the same time, how do people find you? Now, I know you have your ChickiesBailBonds.com. I cannot get over the fact that you're Chickie. I could ask you a whole thing on how that happened. You look like a very sweet, wonderful lady, and I'm seeing this Chickie Bail Bond, and I'm thinking of criminals that you're having to deal with. It's quite a picture.
Yeah, it is sort of a dichotomy.
Yes, I do believe.
But as I said, we don't often deal with the criminals, and when we do, what we find out is that they're really not criminals at all. Now, this may sound just completely bizarre, but think about it. A woman working in an office, she's a bookkeeper, and she decides that she really does need just a few dollars to tide her over. Maybe she has a sick parent at home or whatever. So she kind of steals a couple of checks from the back of the book, and now she has been arrested for embezzlement. She never intended to embezzle. She knew she could pay it back, but she didn't have that opportunity to do so. And of course what she did is wrong. And of course it's a criminal act. But is this a disgusting human being? I don't think so.
And what you're looking at, and hopefully the end message of all of this is, if you've paid a price or if you've gone through this process, and you have to, you still want people to recover. You want them to go on with the rest of their lives and be a responsible citizen. And boy, you learn something from something like that. Now, do people hear about you through their lawyer? Or how does that work?
Our largest source of business is through criminal defense attorneys. When I went into business, I looked at the yellow pages that existed, and I said, oh, my God, look at all those bail agents. How could I ever possibly compete with them? They're already established. They have all these giant ads. What am I going to do? And so I decided that I would do something completely different. I have a little tiny ad in the yellow pages, which I have always had, and it says, call Chickie. She comes to you. It's very rare that anyone looks at that little ad and calls me. Well, I shouldn't say very rare, but not nearly as much probably as they call these giant, advertisements. But I started the business by knocking on lawyers' doors, and I said, this is going to be a different type of a bail agency. We are there for you and your clients, and that's the way it always has been. I do not have an office. I just have a phone number, and lawyers know that we are available for them and their clients 24/7 at the drop of a hat. It has worked for 27 years. Now, once a client has experienced the joy, if you want to call it that, of working with Chickie's bail bonds, they will never go anywhere else. We get calls 15 years later from somebody who says, remember me? I mean, it is amazing. But
now I understand. Your name is of value. I'm going to remember Chickie. And she comes to you.
It's certainly catchy, but it's the way that you treat people. When you treat people the way you would like to be treated, they remember you. And we do. We treat people with respect.
It's an interesting lesson. We were talking earlier about the fact that there's all kinds of innovation and opportunity out there, and you are an evidence of that. Now, and it happened a while ago, but that doesn't change the fact that when you're facing a lot of competition and you look at what everybody else is doing, you find another way to do it that meets what customers really want to have happen. And in your case, at an uncomfortable time, the last thing you want to do is go to another lawyer's office or some other legal office. You can go to their home in a comfortable environment and talk about a very, I'm sure, unsettling thing. Any family member who goes through this, it's got to be a tragedy for that family.
It is an absolute tragedy. And what we do is try to soften the blow a little. If you sit in a courtroom holding the hand of the wife while the attorney is pleading with the court to let her husband out on bail, it helps a great deal. And these are the kinds of things that we do, just recognizing the need of the family and filling it.
Help us, I'm sure there are some people out there who still would say, I think getting people out of jail is the wrong thing to do, and we're coddling these people instead of. Tell me some of the stories. You mentioned a woman who was really short on funds, doing something she knew was wrong, but she was planning on paying it back, then getting caught in the middle of this. Are there any other stories that, because I'm sure you've had hundreds in the years of experience, that stand out in your own mind of why a bail bond role is such an important, your agent's role?
Well, the first case that comes to mind is Mario Roca, and I believe that everybody has probably heard of this young man who, at a very young age, was arrested and thrown in jail for a crime that he did not commit. And he served 10 years in custody until a couple of very innovative reporters from Pasadena got hold of this case, went to visit him, and said, wait a minute, there is something very wrong here. They did a lot of exploration. They brought a lot of facts to light, and eventually the court was willing to look at this case again, but they put a bail of $1 million on him. Now, this is a poor kid from a poor Mexican family. The attorney came to us and said, look, I'm doing this case pro bono. What will you do? And we made it possible for Mario to get out of custody. Today, and of course the courts finally just dropped everything. They knew that they were terribly wrong. Today Mario is in college. He is a successful human being living a good life. Of course, he lost 10 years of his life, but it could have been a lot more than that. We were really happy to post his bail and get him out of custody. And that's just one case. There are many.
You know, that is a very touching story of the impact. You earn trust over time, and when you look at the data, you look at what the facts are. You got to know there are a lot of people who have had no one looking out for them, who are really in a tough situation. I suppose you could argue on the other side there are people who have gotten away that need to, but that's our system, isn't it? I mean, our system is designed. You've got to have substantial proof before you're going to be found guilty, and there's a comfort in that for those people who can easily be accused of something they didn't do.
Absolutely. I think that there is a saying that it's better to let 10 guilty people go than to convict one innocent person. And when you think about it, it really does make sense, because being convicted and guilty could be being put to death. And this is an innocent person, or throwing 10 years of your life away sitting in custody.
Well, soon we're going to be taking a break for our. We're in a drive time here, and we are going to be checking out on our traffic report here. But when we get back, I want to continue to focus. You talked about the importance of your reputation, integrity, and you mentioned, I believe it was ExpertBail.com, and I want to talk about what does it mean to bring that kind of commitment to the bails bond arena, and what are the kinds of things you can expect from people who are going to take that seriously. So when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about that, but right now I want to thank you, Chickie Leventhal. This is www.Chickie's, CHICKIE's bailbonds.com, and she comes to you. I read that small little ad. We've got a great guest. Her name is Chickie Leventhal, and I mean, she sounds more like a beloved mother or grandmother than a bail bond agent, but I like that, because you go that second mile for your people. You work with the relationships with lawyers that you respect and you like to work with, because you hold on to that, the mission that you have. There are going to be times that people might not find you. Well, let's start with that. How do you make sure you get a good bail bond agent? What are the kinds of things that you try and do to deal with that?
I think that if you are an educated consumer, you're far more likely to end up with the right person, that you just won't jump into the office that's sitting there outside the jail and think, okay, this is what I have to do. If you can explore a little bit, if you can learn a little bit. For instance, ExpertBail is a nationwide organization. They have bail agents in every state in the United States. If you have an ExpertBail agent in your corner, you know that you're going to be treated fairly, with integrity, with professionalism, and the fact that they are nationwide is wonderful. For instance, you can call Chickie's Bail Bond, and I'm located in Southern California. But if your son is arrested in Philadelphia, there's no problem, because I have an agent in Philadelphia. I will handle this with you here, but my agent in Philadelphia will see that your son is released from custody.
So it's a network of agents. In fact, there is a website for ExpertBail. It's www.expertbail.com, and again, what are some of the pitfalls? If you didn't know this, you didn't go to the website, didn't call Chickie's, what are some of the pitfalls, things you look at that would be a warning signal for you in dealing with somebody?
When a family is faced with this devastation, they can be so taken advantage of, both emotionally and financially. They're in a terrible position. When you walk into a bail agent's office, and all they're interested in is where's the money and where's it, and they have this terrible attitude, you're in the wrong place. You need to talk to someone who is compassionate, someone who has some understanding, someone who's going to teach you what it is that they're doing for you and help you through the whole passage. In our office, when a family comes to us and they want to bail out again and again and again this same kid who's been on drugs, and every time they bail him out, he's back to being on drugs, we will often say, don't bail him out. You've got to find a drug program that he can go into before he hits the street, before he goes back to drugs. We've helped people find drug programs. We have wonderful success stories. Terrence is my favorite, okay? Terrence had been in and out of many drug programs for a period of 15 years. His attorney just threw his hands up and said, I don't know what to do for him anymore. I don't know what to do. And we said, send him to Narconon. Terrence went to Narconon. It's got to be 5-6 years now. Today, Terrence is a successful human being. He has a wife, he has 2 children, and he comes to visit us. He comes out to California to visit us just to show us how wonderfully he's doing.
Oh, wow,
we are
that's
so
impressive.
grateful. We have saved a life here.
You know, I
If you
keep
have an
saying,
agent who's interested in doing that, you've got the wrong person.
Well, that's what you're saying. You can almost tell ethics and integrity by the fact that I will not always push the same strategy. Here's an example where a bail bonds agent is not pushing for bail. And you know,
Yeah. Oh, that has happened more than once.
and
How
that's,
about the battered woman who always wants to get her husband out so that he can batter her again?
Oh.
Leave him in there, for God's sakes. Why are you bailing him out?
Exactly. And a very, very powerful example of the fact that you need more information, you need a sense of the track record, and I'm sure it helps that you have formed a good relationship with many of the lawyers that you consistently work with, that they see you as part of their plan of being able to serve their customer.
Just exactly. When we have a conversation with a lawyer and we talk about the case and we talk about the situation, he knows that we're there in his corner. We're there to help. We will put this bond together if we have to work night and day. I mean, we've had occasions where I'm lying in bed and my daughter is standing at the foot of my bed with a phone talking to Japan because it's the middle of the night. And we have to get this straightened out because there are assets in Japan that we need in order to be able to put this bond together. I mean, there is no place too far. You just do what you have to do. You're trying to help people. We're in the business of helping people. That's what we do.
Wow, what a great story. And let me give you again your website, Chickie. That's www.chickies, CHICKIES, bailbonds.com. And certainly a wonderful resource. And also we talked about ExpertBail.com to look for those of you listening in other parts of the country, because we have people who are listening online at www.am1400coach.com, and we welcome you as guests, and please make sure that you take advantage of this, because you want somebody on your side that will do something extra. You mentioned that sometimes there are unique things that a bail bonds can do when you really are committed to your what are some of the examples of that?
When we're working with a family, they may be sort of on the fence. They may say, well, gee, I don't really know if I should bail her out or not. We try to find out what the problem is. And very frequently, they're concerned about the behavior of their son or daughter when they're released from custody. We will sit down with them, and we will make a list of requirements that's important to the parents. You see, the parents are our client, not the defendant. It's the parents. They're the people that we're working with. And we will make a list. Okay, I will live at home. I will be in by midnight every night. I will not run around with those bad people. I will not drink and drive. Whatever it is, whatever is important, we will go into the jail. We will have the person in custody read the list, and if they can agree to it, then we will bail them out. If they do not agree, well, then they can stay there. P.S. They've always agreed. Everyone always comes out, and we have never had to put anyone back in custody.
Never had to put anybody back
Never.
in custody.
Never
So it's
anyone
that
back in
clear
custody.
communication, knowing that the stakes of wanting to be out, I'm sure, are very high. They want to be out. But it's that forethought, so you become part of the family's team, in essence.
Exactly.
Because parents sometimes, I don't know how to control my kid. I don't know how to deal with this. But when it has the weight of the judge and the requirements and the legal implications of that, it certainly adds to their power in dealing with their offspring here.
Absolutely. Another thing that we do is we will have certain clients call our office every Monday morning. They have to call us. We have to know that they're still around, that they're sober, that everything is okay. So we have a whole list of people who call in every Monday morning, and they do.
What are some of the things that really help people turn around? I mean, do you find that going through this experience is enough of a wake-up call that people do turn around?
You know, I would like to think so. I would imagine in many cases this is true. I can't tell you that we follow the cases and that we know that for a fact, but you can just imagine how horrible an experience this is. If you're sitting in county jail for 5 minutes, let alone 3 weeks or 2 months or a year, it has to have an impact on you. You have to know that you must turn your life around. We like to think that that helps.
We always think that freedom is a very important thing, but boy, the absence of freedom is a painful experience for people, and sometimes you earn that, and if justice prevails and somebody goes to jail, that's going to happen. I'm glad we had a chance to have this conversation, Chickie, and for informing our listeners on what the positive role that bail bonds agents can play, and the importance of a relationship that's sensitive to the people and to the lawyers and to our criminal justice system. So thank you for being out there and your commitment to do that. I'll give one more chance to read your website here. And that's Chickie Leventhal, and the website is www.chickiesbailbonds.com. And thank you for being with us, and we look forward to having you on again sometime in the future. Thank you for your work.
You're very welcome, and thank you, Terry. It was certainly a pleasure.